Welcome to Blue Compass, where today in our live webinar, we are sharing 10 powerful ways you can prepare your website for SEO in 2025. So there's been a lot of fluctuation this year with Google's algorithm and AI changes. We've seen a lot of websites out there struggle in search rankings since this has happened. And our SEO experts here at Blue Compass have put together 10 tips that you can use to strengthen your website, get a little more visibility in search, and hopefully help you outrank your competitors when it comes to your products and services. So I have Katrina, our digital marketing director, with us here today, and let's dive right in. So number 10 is to avoid third-party content on your website. So this is a really big one. This has actually been something that's kind of reared its head in about the last month. And Google has had an update to what it calls its site reputation abuse policy. And basically, in a nutshell, it means that Google is really trying to take seriously the reputation and the authenticity of all websites out there. And what that means is Google wants you to have original, authentic content on your website. So third-party content, Katrina, like any content that you get elsewhere and put on your website, is a no-no. It's something that you need to avoid. And so usually we see this in like white labeled content.
Absolutely.
So if you ever have any white labeled content, you know, we see this sometimes in healthcare or financial organizations. Well,
Heating and cooling.
Heating and cooling, yeah. They will subscribe to a service that provides them with content or blogs, and they'll put that on their website every month. And basically Google is saying, hey, don't do that. We don't want to hear what others are saying. We want to hear what you are saying. And duplicate content is another form. So if you have any type of duplicate content on your site, so if it just exists elsewhere at another URL on another website, that's also a dangerous thing to do.
And that's one of the biggest problems with third-party content. They're giving it to so many people at the same time. Google doesn't see the value of it when it lives everywhere and it's not adding anything unique that ties to your brand, your services, your products, or what makes your company unique.
Yeah. And then another type of third-party content that we are really encouraging organizations to stay away from is AI-generated content. So any content that you produce on ChatGPT, Gemini, Grok, whatever that AI service might be, if you take that and put it directly on your website, that could be a red flag to Google. And that's something that you might want to avoid because, I mean, that is literally third-party content. And the AI is generating that by looking at other sources across the web. And so it's something that could really hurt your website in the future. And we've seen organizations do this because it's easy.
It is. It's a shortcut.
It's a shortcut, right. But it could hurt you in the future. And it could be a black hat technique.
Absolutely.
Kind of like buying links has been a black hat SEO technique for years. And people used to do this and it would really help them in search, but then Google made a change and it started really hurting websites. So AI generated content is a little dangerous.
I think there's one big problem with it. If you have no content on your website and you put AI-generated content on there, you will see an uptick for a little bit because you went from having no keywords available to having ample keywords available. But once Google finishes crawling that, once they continue to come back and they realize that there's those AI tendencies in that content and that it's not original, unique content, that's when you're going to see the dip. And it's actually going to be worse than where you started. So don't take the short win. Don't take that cheat code. And I don't want to get ahead of us, but our number one tip is going to be about how to optimize for generative AI today. And oftentimes people get confused about the generative AI versus implementing AI content on their site. And those are two very different things. We don't want to confuse those. Generative AI, we're going to give you tips and tricks for how to optimize for that in a little bit, but don't think that AI-based content is how you get into that space. All right, so we're going to jump to number 9. Number 9 is compare your page with your competitors. And while I assume most of you are looking at, we all have that one competitor that we always need to know what they're doing, what's the latest thing that's happening on their website, on their pages. We compete in market. We all keep an eye on that specific competitor. But have you taken the time to decide what your keywords are that you're optimizing for, whether it's across your entire site or on a specific web page that you're creating, and then worry encouraging you to take the time to do a search for that. Look at those keywords and who's showing up as your organic competitor in that space. And the biggest value out of doing this is you're able to see what is success. Google knows what people are looking for when they're optimizing for those keyword results. So the benefit of doing this is you're able to see what content Google thinks is most critical. You're able to see what's been successful so far. What are the other things that are showing up on that page? There's inevitably going to be FAQs. There might be a knowledge panel, which is that panel that shows up on the right-hand side of a search result page. Maybe there's a map. There's so many things that could be showing up there. And what you want to do is you want to take in that search result page and you want to take in those results that are showing up in the spots you most care about. If you care a lot about one of those FAQs, look at how they answered that question. Literally, what's the format that they used? Did they use a bulleted list? Did they use numbers? Did they maybe use a video in it? That's how you know you need to structure your content. Now, I'm not telling you to copy them. We just talked about we need unique content, we need individualized content, but you now know what Google thinks is the most successful format for that copy. So that's your cheat code into how do I need to structure my page and how can I easily build my outline for the keywords that I care about ranking for. We've seen a lot of clients experience success with this, Drew, over the years. Are there anything that you would want to add to that?
It sounds so simple, but it's such a great cheat code. And it's something that we've done for a lot of clients. You know, if they have like a service line and they are being outranked by their competitor, simply examining that competitor's page. If you think about it, you know, if you're making a widget and your competitor is making a widget, you don't know everything about their process. You don't know everything about that goes into their widget. You know, there's some mystery, but there's no mystery here. You can see everything, including all of the code of their page. And so it's really helpful. So I love what you're saying. And I think the bottom line here is if they are outranking you for a product or service or a page, go and make a page that's more valuable than theirs. That's the bottom line. Make a page that Google says, hey, this is a better experience. This is more valuable so that it can rank higher.
I also find us finding ideas of your product or service is better for a reason. You feel passionate about it. And being able to see what your competitors are including or not including helps you remember what makes your product or service so special. Get those unique value adds in. Make sure that you're covering your results to the best you can.
Yep. All right, number 8 is make every page an FAQ on your website. So years ago, we used to encourage our clients to add one FAQ page on their website, you know, to be able to cover all those questions that they seem to get. As time went on, we realized the power of that and how well an FAQ page often performs. And we said, well, maybe an FAQ for every service line or every product page would be beneficial. And these days, we simply say, hey, make every single page on your website an FAQ. And what we mean by that is Google is really a question and answer machine. And so if you can structure the content on your website to generally lay out the sentiment of a question followed by an answer, that's really powerful. And that seems to be how Google and other search engines and even ChatGPT like to see content. And so, you know, usually what we do here, Katrina, is encourage clients to, instead of just writing a bunch of words in paragraph text, break that up with headings throughout, so that it's scannable for search bots, but it's also scannable for humans. And both really like that. So in other words, if you were writing a page all about dog grooming, and if you were trying to rank for keywords about dog grooming window, you would put headings throughout, and maybe you would put a heading that says how often you should bathe your dog every month, and then concisely answer how often. Most breeds should be bathed once a month or whatever that might be, and then expand on that answer in paragraph text, depending on your breed, and you can go on and on. So just having those H2s, H3s throughout that have the sentiment of a question. It doesn't have to have a question mark, but if it has a sentiment of a question, it basically reflects what you think your target audience would search for. That's really powerful.
And the critical piece of what you just said, Drew, was that really concise answer right after the question. You can expand on it in future paragraphs, but you need to be able to summarize what you want to get across in that single sentence. And that's because when we're looking at search results, we've all seen those FAQs, frequently asked questions, or people also ask, it can be labeled as either, and they expand and collapse. Normally there's only one sentence in that initial. You can click see more and you can get a more detailed answer, but we need that first response to that question to be as powerful and all-encompassing as it possibly can.
Get to the point and then expand on it.
Absolutely. One of the most common questions we get when we're talking about this is, how many FAQs should I put on each page? And we recommend always include 2. You are eligible on every single page of your website to rank for 2 of those people also ask or FAQs for every single URL. You can end up ranking for more depending on what your strategies are, but do at least 2 for everyone and pick the two you care most about. So we have pages where we answer 5 or 6 questions on a page because sometimes you need to cover more than just 1 or 2 things, which is great. But put the 2 that you want to rank most for closest to the top of the page. So as humans are reading through the page and as search engines are scanning through the page, the 2 that you care most about are showing up as close to the top as possible. All right, we are going to dive into number 7. So number 7 is leverage the power of schema markup. And we're going to start by taking a step back. What is schema? Schema is actually a code that you can put onto your website, and it makes it really easy for search engines, AI results to be able to scrape the content of your page and really see what that entire page is about. Then they don't have to worry about crawling through all the images, the JavaScript, all the fancy things that make it look great to a visitor on the page. So that is what schema is. Small piece of code. We can help write this anytime you need. Any of your digital agencies can definitely do that. But what the goal of schema is for us to be able to talk directly to those bots, make that really easy summary. And that ties into 3 things that we're talking about today. FAQs. Drew just talked to us about FAQs. If we want to show up in that people also ask or that FAQ section, we see the most uptick and the most response from search engines when we're able to put an FAQ schema code on our pages. Technically, you can have more than 2 on a page, but Google's been really clear that they're only going to read the first 2 schema FAQs that you include on your page. So that's why we're encouraging you to put those 2 right at the top, make it as simple as you can. And then from there, other pieces of schema that you can include. You can include ratings. You can include your name, address, and phone number. Really think about anything that would enhance a search result page and give you a unique offering besides just the normal organic results. Most of those are populated via schema. Even the generative AI results are tied into schema, which we're going to talk about at the end. So if you're thinking about how did that website get all of those site links beneath it, and it takes up way more space on the page, site links are coming from schema markup. And that's specifically you indicating to a search engine what other pages on your website do you have that are relevant to the page that they're on. If you're seeing extra ratings show up, so it's 4 out of 5 stars. If you're seeing recipes that come through, any of those things are usually being populated via schema, and that's what sets those websites apart. So it is a technical SEO component, but we see amazing success. We see dramatically improved click-through rates from search. So initially when all of these enhancements came out, Drew, we heard from clients that people were really worried, well, I don't think people are going to click on them. I don't want the extra stuff. I want them to have to click through to my website to get all that information. And while we understand that sentiment, we see the best results. We still see great click-through rates. The more information we're giving them in those search results, the more they want to come back to your site. Also, you're taking up the most space. And I'm not saying we're really competitive around here, but we really like to be able to take up as much space as we possibly can in search because that means our competitors aren't there.
Yeah. I think, Katrina here, one thing that's beneficial for marketers to do is not just look at Google as a directory that's supposed to send traffic to us, but look at Google as a location that hosts some of our website information, that displays some of our content. And that might not be ideal. We want people to come to our website, but look at it like that. And Schema is a wonderful tool to help Google display more of your content. And Schema markup is a game changer. Mm-hmm. We do this for so many new clients who maybe don't have it implemented correctly or haven't done it before. And it helps so much. It gives them so much visibility. And almost every time it's tried, I've seen it greatly improve the sessions that they receive.
What I'm most impressed about, too, is when we're using Schema and we're using it effectively, we also see more uptick from voice search. So if you're wondering how to get your company showing up for some of those voice search FAQs, whether that's through Google, Alexa, etc., those really come from a really quality, really detailed schema markup.
Yeah. And this one is a little more intimidating. This is probably the most technical of our tips. And, it can be difficult perhaps to do on your own. But, if you know someone who does technical SEO, or if we can help you with this, if a good digital marketing agency can help you with this, we encourage you to look into it. All right. Next one is use IRL images on your website. IRL, in real life. This one seems kind of simple, but it's a really big one, and it ties back to our first tip of the day, which is all about authenticity. Stock photos are third-party content, and Google really prefers that you have real, authentic images on your website. Even if it's not the highest quality images in the world, if you actually have real images of your team, of real people, of your services or your products on your website, that's really powerful, and Google prefers that. They directly say in their image brand guide to stay away from stock. And so that's one of the things we encourage our clients to do. Now, is it possible to always stay away from stock images? I don't think so. I mean, you probably run into situations where a stock image is necessary on your website. I was thinking about this, Katrina. So I have a personal website, and at the end of every year, I write a blog article on all the books that I read. And last year, I just grabbed an image that everyone has, like on Amazon, of that book, and I pasted it. Whereas I think if I would go and actually take a photo of the book, and of me holding the book, or something that's more real and authentic, or of me reading the book, I believe that would do better in search. And there's actually some studies out there that we're seeing now, particularly amongst larger publishers, where they will actually get real images of someone using a product or service or something like that, and it will improve the rankings of that web page in a very short amount of time. So we're not guaranteeing that will immediately happen for you, but it is something really important to think about.
And as we were looking at some of those, we even noticed that simply having hands in the photo instead of it just sitting on a well-lit table that looked a little bit more stock-like, those human components really are what sets it apart and make it feel more authentic.
Yes.
And what prevent it from showing up. Even we've seen where we're uploading a picture to Instagram and it's you and I. Like, we are not AI generated. It was the two of us in the photo. But it was really well lit. It was clearly photoshopped. And we got to notice, is this an AI image? No, it's not. So really going for that authentic feel, letting it be somebody's hands, changing that out, not having the same person in every image, things like that are going to help it feel more authentic to bots.
So before we get to number 5, a lot of this is complex. There's so much that happens when it comes to SEO. If we can help you and your team with this, for a lot of clients, we'll do an SEO audit. That's how we'll start. So we'll audit their website. We'll look at what's working, what's not, and then we'll give them guidance on direction on what they can do. And then other clients, we'll have an ongoing partnership. So if you'd like that, or a partnership as we go into 2025 where we walk with you and your marketing team, we help this make sense. We work every month to help your website outrank competitors. Please reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk with you and discuss the options.
All right, jumping into number 5. Prioritize Google's core web vital metrics. So this is a more complicated one. We do have a link in the description available to you if you want to read in detail what are Google's core web vital metrics. I'm going to break it down for you, but I only have a few minutes here, so we'll get started. The reason we care about core web vitals, before I get into what is it, Google doesn't tell us what's in the algorithm very often. They're pretty secretive about that. You can find a couple blogs that talk about it. They've made a couple announcements here and there, but this was the biggest announcement that they have done. And they very clearly stated, if you have a good result with your core web vitals in Search Console, you will have a bump in the ranking. And so that's huge. And that's why we actually have to care about this. They're telling us we need to care. We need to listen. So what are the Google Core Web Vitals? Right now, there's 3 things that matter for Core Web Vitals. The first one is what's called first input delay. So that just means when you load a web page, how long does it take to be able to see everything that's there? How quick is it Do you feel like you're getting impatient? And all of this boils down to what's a good user experience. To simplify this as much as we can, it's about what do you as a user want to see when you're coming to interact with a website. So how long does it take for that first input to completely show up? How long does it take to see your full screen? Another one is what's called cumulative layout shift. So are there any unexpected jumps in the content after the page has loaded? So we can see what's above, we know what's showing up, but as we start to scroll down the page, is it jumping around? Is there an ad that maybe loads in, but it loads just a little too late? So then I thought I was clicking on a link, but now I clicked on an ad. Anything like that. Google doesn't want that because it's frustrating for the user. You end up seeing rage click patterns. They have to click the back button right away. People normally leave, so they don't want that either. And then the third thing is what's called LCP, or largest contentful paint. And that is all about how long does it take for the biggest image or video, what is above the fold, and what's that biggest piece of content? How long does it take for that specific thing to load? So not the whole viewport like first input delay, but just that first big piece of media. Whether that, like I said, it could be a header image on a blog, it could be a YouTube video that you have embedded right at the top of the page. And the reason Google cares about that, it makes the page feel complete. If you're opening a page and you just see a gray box instead of seeing an image or what's supposed to welcome you into that page, it doesn't feel like a good user experience. So that's the three most basic things of Core Web Vitals. We are expecting, Google changes those every once in a while. So they like to introduce new ones. We usually have a little bit of warning when that happens. We're currently speculating, and at Blue Compass, something Drew and I have really been talking about is we're expecting CSP, or content security policy, to become a Core Web Vital ranking factor in the next probably 6 to 12 months. Google's really talked a lot about CSP. They're really talking about why it's so important. And that content security policy prevents malicious activity from showing up on your page, to make it as simple as possible. It allows you to do your marketing tracking, do all of those things you care about, but without any unexpected content. So we're expecting things like that to continue to come in. And all of the CWV metrics can be tracked through Google Search Console, which is a free tool that you can use.
I think like one of the big takeaways here when I hear this, Katrina, is that SEO isn't just words on a page. And sometimes, we might think that's the case as marketers, but you mentioned the user experience, you mentioned the load times, and you mentioned the security of the website. And those three things are incredibly important when it comes to SEO as well. So it's really important to find a solid website that's been developed well, that has clean code, that's efficient, not to have all these marketing pixels that are slowing down your website. I mean, these things are really important too. And this is where a lot of people on like cheap WordPress websites that have all these plugins start to lose, because it loads slowly and it's not a great experience. SEO is more than just words on the page.
I'm all about tracking. I care a lot about analytics. These things are very important to me, but we're even evaluating to get the best CWV metrics we can. For example, if we're not in the middle of a UX test on bluecompass.com, let's take the Hotjar code off of there. Let's take the clarity codes off of there. We want to make sure that we're not doing anything to slow down the website.
Yep. All right, moving on to the next one. Number 4 is embed relevant YouTube videos. This is something that we've done more and more over the years. And the whole idea here is, again, giving your audience a great experience when they come to your website. And these days, some people would rather watch the content than read the content. So in the perfect scenario, if you have a web page, whether it's a blog article or a page about your service or your product or an About Us page about yourself, having really great, well-written copy is important, but then also embedding a relevant video that also tells that same story is really powerful too. And one of the great things about doing that, Katrina, is not only can it, bring more people to the page, but Google owns YouTube. And YouTube is a massive search engine on its own. So if you take the time to make a really great YouTube video, you embed it on your web page, you have the opportunity not only to service your target audience and improve their experience better, but you have an opportunity to rank in YouTube. And that video itself can also rank in Google. So you're creating 2 more opportunities for your brand and your content to get more visibility.
Absolutely. And Google's been very clear that they limit how many times a single web result can show up in a search result. So being able to show up twice for your web page and then another 2 additional times for your video, that's so powerful. That's 4 whole touch points you can have on a single keyword. And that just gives you so much real estate and so many opportunities for people to interact with your website and come back to you.
Yes. And I mean, if you have a great video, of course, there's other platforms that can go on like Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, etc. Video marketing is really powerful, as you know. And search isn't just Google. Google's a huge component of it, but ChatGPT is becoming bigger. I mean, search is a thing on TikTok. Search is a thing on Instagram. People search everywhere. It's a behavior. So having more video content around is really, really powerful and important for you to do.
Diving into number 3, embrace experience, expertise, authority, and trust, or EAT. So EAT is all about credibility and establishing credibility. At the end of the day, Google needs their results to be accurate and correct, or people aren't going to keep using the platform. So this is one of the ways that Google has very clearly tried to outline how we can show that we're a credible resource for each of the things that we want to rank for. So looking at experience is all about what job title do the people have that are talking about this? How have they been in market for this? What does this look like? What is their relevant experience in this space that they're talking about? And does it make sense for them to be talking about this? Expertise, where have they been cited about this? How many times has Drew, for example, talked about culture? Has he talked about leadership? He's got multiple pages on his website. There's multiple references on Blue Compass. We're able to leverage that. And then authority. Are people backlinking to your content? Are more people sharing this? Is it showing up on social media sites that are also crawlable and indexable? And then trust. Are people staying on your page? Do you have quality time on page, clicking through more things? Are they really embracing your content, utilizing it, and then using it as seeing it as that quality resource? So those are all factors that Google carries into what we now call EAT in the SEO world. As we've seen this work, it really does build that trust, fosters credibility, and that's why Google's leaning into this so much. We've seen this pick up so much, especially since 2020, and EAT's really become a big present since then.
Yes, and again, there's that word authenticity. Authenticity. Google wants authenticity. And one of the things we tell clients sometimes here is celebritize your team members. In other words, highlight your team members on your website. Make them authors of the content on your website. Shout out their experience. Have bio pages for your team members and talk about, their expertise and what they do. Whenever you have a blog article go out, ensure that someone who knows that topic is tagged in that article and they're referenced in that article. It's all about being authentic. Grace on our team the other day, she came to me and she showed me that she did a search for how often should you redesign your website. And in Google's snippet up at the top, it highlighted an answer that I gave on LinkedIn, which was pretty cool.
Yep.
If I would have done a LinkedIn post about 401ks and some tips you should use with your 401k, I wouldn't have been highlighted there. And the reason is I have all these social profiles. I am all over Blue Compass's website, my website, other websites. Google knows what my expertise is. It knows what to associate with me. So associate the right expertise with your team members on your website.
It's also unique content. Nobody else is using your quote somewhere in that volume. You're using your quotes more.
Yeah.
So that allows that unique, we're avoiding third-party content. All of the things that we've talked about today really come together with a bow as we look at that EAT metric.
All right, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 is really simple but really powerful. Basically, add more internal linking throughout your website. It's called the World Wide Web for a reason. It's a web of links. Links are how people and search engines find things online. And this is an easy one. I mean, we can all do this in our content management system. Whenever you create a new blog article, whenever you create a new page, think about what can you hyperlink to another relevant page on your website? So for instance, on our website, on our About page, if we're talking about how we're really great at SEO, we should highlight that and link to our SEO page. The more internal links you have on your website, as long as they're natural and they are helpful to the user, the better. Search engines seem to really like this, and even linking externally to another website can be a good SEO ranking factor if it's a good user experience. But make sure that link opens in a new tab.
It's called the World Wide Web for a reason. We want to make it as easy as possible for that web to be developed and to showcase to Google and search engines what content's related to the topic that we're talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, and we're down to number 1. So we are going to wrap up today by talking about how can I perform generative AI optimization, or GAIO as it's currently being called in the marketplace. We're going to try to simplify this as much as we can. We've talked about some awesome technical SEO opportunities so far, but if you were to do a Google search for this, you're going to get hit with a bunch of terms that might not make sense. Semantic SEO, AI content, all of these things. So how can we make this make sense today? The best thing we can talk about is how can you simplify your content for both bots and the users. We have been talking about that today. We want to put headings in content, the heading tags that Drew talked about. We want those FAQs. Schema is a really, really big piece of this. All of these are strategies to help simplify your content for a reader as well as for a bot. And that's how we get that generative AI content. The other critical piece of AI-based the generative AI content at the top of search results is all about how readable is it. So we can't have something stuffy in there. If you've been reading those, it really sounds like real people talking to another person. That content is so simple to break down. It's really easy to understand, and it's currently commonly showing up for question-based things, how-to-based things, things that are in bulleted lists, things like that. And that's because it's not massive amounts of content that need to be scraped. It's a really simple, quick hit that we can put into a search result. To get a little bit more technical as we're wrapping up here today, it's also critical to make sure that AI can crawl your content. So what does that mean? Every website has something that's called a robots.txt file, or at least it should if it's a quality SEO website. And in your robots.txt file, you need to make sure that you're not excluding certain types of bots or AI machines from crawling your content. If Google Baird, if ChatGPT, if these other AI content pieces can't crawl your website, you're not going to be eligible to show up in these generative AI results. So that's one of the most critical pieces to this puzzle. That's something that your web developer, that's something like an SEO company like Blue Compass can always help you with if you need help with that. The other thing that we're seeing right now, and I know, Drew, you've gotten this question before, I don't necessarily want to show up there because I don't want all of my content being given away for free. Like we talked about earlier, it's better for you to be there than your competitors to be there. So we really want to be able to capture that space.
It is an opportunity, whether you like it or not. Yeah, I mean, I want people to come to our website, but it is an opportunity to make it easier for AI to grab the content.
Absolutely.
And again, you mentioned the robot.txt file. Again, every website should have a robot.txt file. Your website probably does. We have seen websites launch by other organizations that either don't have one of these files or have everything disavowed, so no search engine can crawl the site or no AI can crawl the site, and that's dangerous. So if you're not sure about that, check with your developer, make sure that you have a robot.txt file that's working well, that allows your site to be crawled. That's incredibly important. Sometimes, if you have a section of your website that you don't want to be crawled, that's fine. You can turn that off in robot.txt, but you want the whole website to be crawled overall. And again, this is important not just for Google's AI, but it's important for ChatGPT. ChatGPT is coming out with SearchGPT, which is more of a search engine. All these AI tools are only going to grow, so it's incredibly important to follow these best practices.
Absolutely. The really simple things here, does it load fast? Is it really easy to find the content you're looking for? All of those things that Blue Compass finds SEO best practices, and we have for years, are what's building that generative AI search right now.
Yep. Well, we hope that was really helpful for you. If you have any questions or if you would like us to give you a hand with this sort of thing, we have a full team of experts who do this each and every day. Don't hesitate to reach out to us at bluecompass.com. We'd love to have a conversation with you. Thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time.